everyone, my name is Agnes Fries and I'm the creator of an online design tool called the Grid Designer. The Grid Designer is used to create color charts for multiple crafts that includes cross stitch, latch hook, crochet, knitting, corner to corner crochet, and basically any craft where you need to create a grid-based color chart. Okay, in this video I'm going to tell you all about colors and how to work with palettes. I'm going to show you how to create your own colors. You can add them to a custom palette or you can add colors to other palettes. I'm going to show you how to replace a color in a palette if you don't like a particular version of a color. It's not exactly what you want and you want to use something else. I'm going to also show you, if there's not a palette out here that you really like, I'm going to show you what you can do about that just by, putting your yarns in front of you and going out. I'm going to give you two different ways to deal with that situation. I'm going to show you how to substitute colors, how to use the color picker on the top, how to convert to another palette, take a project and convert it to a different palette, and possibly a little bit of advanced work down at the end where we're going to copy a hex code from one palette to another palette. That's a way to copy the exact color of something that's in one palette and put it in another palette. Okay, so we're going to get busy here. We're going to start first with adding color. Oh no, first I want to start with, what do I do? I've got like three yarns in front of me and I want to figure out the fastest way and the best way to get a palette going so that I can draw something with those yarns that I know that I have. I just recently went through this myself. I did a sweater where I had used a baby yarn, which is not in any of my palettes here. And I wanted to, I had a white, a light blue, and a darker blue that I wanted to just put into a palette really quickly. I'm going to show you two ways to deal with that situation. So first of all, the palette information is all down here under Project, Palette. You pick Palette. This shows you a list of all the predefined palettes that I have in the database. I'm going to be making more of these. And one of the reasons that I did the designer this way is because I used to use a tool called Design a Knit. And I hated having to define my own colors, all my palettes and all that stuff. I thought, well, if I'm using this particular yarn, it's only got these colors, so I would like to just pull up a palette for that yarn that has those colors in it, and then I can just go, on my merry way. I wanted something to be simpler, so I'm going with the predefined palettes. And I think that will make things simpler. Now, what I have at the moment is I've got two palettes with embroidery floss, the DMC and the Anchor. And these are very large palettes. They've got about 500 colors in them. And I'm going to be using actually one of these as one of my solutions for, creating your own palette. But let me come back to that in a second. So these things that are marked general colors. These do not apply. They're not attached to any particular yarn or thread or anything. They're just groupings of colors that might be nice to work with in designing something. So they're not attached to any particular yarn. So I've got autumn colors, winter colors, summer colors, spring colors, which are basically pastels. I've got a naturals, a pastels, a grays, Christmas colors, brights, and a garden palette, which has lots of greens and flower colors and things like that. Then we've got these that are marked rug. These are pre-cut latch hook rug yarns. So if it's marked rug, it's a pre-cut yarn. It's the pre-cut yarn. And the H stands for Hirschner's. This is Hirschner's, Mary Maxim, and Shillcraft. And you can see down here, there's Shillcraft, which is SC, Mary Maxim, which is MM, and Hirschner's, which is abbreviated by H. And then there are combinations of those up above. So because those can all be combined together. Then we've got some worsted weight yarns down here. These are currently marked as yarn. I do not have any lighter weight yarns. I just have the worsted weight yarns in here, so I'll be adding more things. So what I did was I wanted to make a sweater, and I wanted to use, I think it's Burnout Baby something or other yarn. I can't remember the exact name now, but the type of yarn. But I had a white, a light blue, and a darker blue, and I needed to make a palette for that so that I could go ahead and do that. So I'm going to show you two different things that you can do in that case. So one thing that you can do, and I usually, if I embroider, I generally go by DMC embroidery floss, so I don't usually use Anchor. But one thing you can do is you can pick a large palette that has the colors inside it that you would like to have. And we can hide all of the colors in the palette except the three that you want, or the 10 that you want, or whatever it is that you want. And these embroidery floss palettes are really good to use for this because out of 500 colors, they've got like every shade of everything in here. And so, so I probably won't do the DMC because I'll do that when I do cross stitch, but I could definitely use this Anchor one, as my basis for a different palette. Okay, so I'm going to click on this Anchor stranded cotton here, and I'm going to say edit palette, which is up here in the upper right corner. So edit palette. Now we can change the colors that are in here, or I can hide and show. I can choose to hide and show colors. And so what I'm going to do initially is I'm going to click this button down here called hide all. Okay. And now notice that all the colors in here have H's on them. Okay, so that means that they're hidden from view when I'm actually editing out in the editor. I won't see these colors. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a white, a light blue, and a darker blue that go with my colors. And I can have those sitting in front of me, as I'm doing this, so that I can pick out a color that I think that is matching that. I'm just going to pick this white here, first of all, because white is kind of white. So I'm going to pick that, and I'm going to say show. Okay, so now what it did was it took the H off of that. And what you'll notice is this list rebuilds itself as you do this, as you hide and show colors. And what it does is it puts the colors that you're showing up at the top. You couldn't tell because white was actually the first color here. But let's go down now and let's pick a light blue. Okay, where's a light blue? There's a whole bunch of light blues. You see, now in here you've got like every shade of color that you ever wanted, and you don't have to mess with the color chart and try and figure out how to make your color. You can actually just pick something that is good and represents, what you want to do. So what it did is it put that color up here. So now I've got white and I've got light blue. And now we're going to find a dark blue. So I'm going to scroll down here. And we get down here into the darker blues. Those are kind of purpley in there. Maybe this is kind of about what the yarn looked like to me, I think. So I'm going to pick that one, that blue, and we'll put it there. And then it's up here in the top. Okay, so everything in here, almost 500 colors, is hidden. Easy done by just clicking hide all. And now I pick the three that I want. And now I can say save palette, use palette. Okay, and I'm just going to say open new project with that palette here. And now I've got just those three colors. Those are the only colors that are showing out of that palette. So I'm using the Anchor Floss palette, but I've hidden everything except just the colors that I want. Now there's nothing in this program that says you can't make a latch hook out of these three colors now. You can make any color you want. You can make any project you want using any craft you want, and you can use any palette, any predefined palette at all. So I can use the floss palette and make a latch hook rug, or I can use it in the case that I was doing here where I was actually knitting a sweater. So, and I just wanted a palette with those three colors in it. So it does not matter which one you pick. It's all up to you. Just think of the palettes as lists of colors, and some of them are tied to actual yarns. Okay, yarns or flosses. And then, and so you can pick your background color here and do that. Now, another way to do this, let's go back into here in our palette, and we'll pick this palette up here at the very top. This is custom. And this palette is empty when you first start in the Grid Designer. So it has nothing in it. You can add any color that you want to this palette. So we'll click Edit palette. Okay, the new button is already selected here. And now we're going to pick a color. Okay, so now the way this works is there's a bar here on the right side which picks your color area. It picks the hue that you're going to be using. So you can pick whatever you want here. But the first color we're going to do is white. And this is different brightnesses and contrast. Different, and not contrast, but different. We'll just think of it as different brightnesses of that particular color. So let's go over here, and I'm going to pick this. White is basically always in the upper left corner. Now this is a representation of that color white. Notice that when I move this around, that color changes there. It looks a little odd when it's white, but it's white. Okay, so I'm going to type in the name white. This is going into my custom palette, and I'm going to say add. Now, whenever you create your own custom color, when you look at it in here, it's going to have a little C on it. That stands for custom. So that's a custom color that we've added to that. Okay, now we need a light blue. So let's go up here kind of into the medium blue. That's getting a little purpley on that side. So we'll maybe pick it kind of in here. And then we grab this little dot, and as we move it around, see that color changing in the box over here? So we're going to pick a light blue, fairly light blue, maybe something like that. Okay. And I'm going to say light blue. All right. And now we say add. So now we've got light blue. Now, probably just using the same thing here, I can go over here and get a darker blue, something like that. That'll be my dark blue. Okay. And then I say add. Okay, now I've got my colors in here. My white, my light blue, my dark blue. I say save palette. I say use palette. And I just say open a project. That'll switch that over. You notice that that darker color was a little bit different before. And I'll switch those colors over to that palette. And now we're ready to go on and do that. Now if we wanted to create a project from there, we can do that. We could also create from image, and we could select custom palette. So you just say new project. Yes. You pick whatever you're doing, and then you put in this case, you're putting in knitting gauge information if you're doing knitting or crocheting or whatever it is that you're doing. And then put up whatever information you need to put in here, and go ahead and pick the custom palette. And then that will be your 3 colors. And the same thing is true if you're using a large palette and hiding the colors and just picking the ones out that you want. I would just go in and pick anchor stranded cotton. Doesn't matter that this craft is not that floss. That's okay, because this is just a list of colors. That's all that is, with some names on them, and they happen to correspond to the 500 colors that are in stranded cotton. So so you can just create a project with that once you've got your palette edited. Okay, so that's 2 ways to do that. 2 ways to put in, you can either pick colors out of a large palette and hide the rest of them, or you can use the custom palette and put your own colors in. Now I want to show that you can actually add colors to other palettes. So let's go over to here again. Let's go back into palette. And let's just pick, say, summer colors. This is not tied to any yarn or anything. It's just some colors that are nice and bright for summer. And let's say that I really would like to add a lighter pink to this. It's pretty much what I want, except I want a lighter shade of pink. So I go in here and I say edit palette. I'm going to click on the pink first, because when I click on this color, notice that as I click on the color, look up here and notice that this little dot moves and that little bar moves as you go to different colors. So it sets the color and that position of those things to where that color is. So we're going to start, I want a lighter pink. So I'm going to click the pink first to get it kind of set up as a pink. Then I'm going to click new, and I still have those settings, right? And then I'm going to grab this little thing here and drag it over here to the left. Okay, so now I have a lighter pink. So now I'm going to say light pink and I'm going to say add. And notice that this C is the custom color that you added. So you can always tell when you get in here to the editor, you can tell which color you added and which colors were things that came out of the database that were the original things that were in the palette. Okay, so now we added our custom color. Now we say save that and say use palette, and I'm just going to say open new project. It's going to reset it to those colors. So now we're using the summer colors plus the addition of the light pink that we just added, right? If you want to change, usually you want to change the background color when you start in here because it's just picking a color that was closest to whatever it was before. So I'm going to set my background color to white. And a good way to clear it is to say select all and then say clear all. That's one of the simplest, safest ways to clear it all. So just do those two steps. So now we have our background and it's all cleared like this. We can then go and say, okay, so maybe I want to use my pink, and we'll go in here and we'll draw something. And then maybe we'll pick a different color, like maybe this other blue, and we'll go over here and we'll fill it. Okay, so now we have like, what is that, an Easter egg? That's something like that. Okay, so all right. So that's the way you add a color to another palette. Now you can do that to anyone, not just the general ones that don't have yarn colors, but you can add it anything to anything here. You can put anything where you want it. Now let's say you wanted to replace a color in a palette. So let's go back to the palettes over here, and let's go into our summer colors, and let's say we don't like this dark blue. Let's say we want a slightly different shade of dark blue. Okay, so we're going to go in here. We're going to pick the blue first. That sets up our little pointers over here. It's way up here in the corner, and over here that's a very bright blue. And we may want to make it more of a muted blue or something like that, okay? Now, there is no way to actually change the color directly in the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new color. I'm going to go over here and drag this thing down here. It's going to be a little bit darker or something a little bit different. And I'm going to call it My Blue. You have to give it a name that's different than the name of here. This one is called Blue. And so we're going to name it My Blue, and we're going to say add. So now we have another custom color called My Blue. All right. Now, if we wanted to look like we're replacing this color. We don't want to see this color anymore. I don't want to see that color anymore. So I click on it and I just say hide. Okay, it moved it down here to the bottom and it has a little H on it. So C's are custom colors, H is this blue color. Now notice that there's another icon on here. It's on the pink and the white and the blue. And that it's like a little picture in picture icon. It shows that it's kind of like a cell in a cell, a cell in a picture. And that what that indicates is that these colors are currently used in the project that you have open. And there is one restriction in here, and that is that you cannot remove or hide colors that you're currently using. So, but you can, if I was editing a palette that I was not currently using, those wouldn't be there and I can do anything I want to it. So that's the one restriction in here, is that you cannot delete or hide colors that are currently in use. Okay, so we added our blue. That's like our replacement blue over here. And we'll say save, and then we'll say use palette. Okay. And since I was the same palette that I was using before, and all of the colors that are here are already there, then it doesn't have to do any, it doesn't have to make any changes or do anything to get to that. Then you could go in and you could use this color blue just like any other color that you added to the palette. Okay, so that was replacing a color in the palette. Now I'm going to show you how to substitute colors. Okay, so let's go in here. Okay, let me show you what I did. I just clicked up here. There's a button called Substitute Colors. Okay, because I made it like this because I felt like sometimes when I'm playing with colors, I want to see the whole thing, and I don't want to just do one color. I often want to change multiple colors at the same time. So this lets you get in there and look at all the colors and come up with, substitutions that you want to do. This is really useful, like if you have a, certain rug and it's in a greenish sort of something or other, and you'd rather have it be blue or red or something else. You could pull that pattern up and you can make those substitutions in here and turn a green rug into a blue rug and that kind of thing. So I think this is a very useful tool. So what we've got is the preview of the picture up here. And down below here, we've got a list of all the colors that are currently in the picture. Okay, so let's say we decided we really do like the hot pink color better. And notice that this pink is not in that list. The color that you are substituting for is not in the list. This is the list of all the colors besides that one. So we'll pick hot pink and put that back in there. Okay, and maybe we want our new blue in here that we made there, little purpley looking, and we'll leave the white alone. Okay, or we could substitute it. Let's substitute it and just see what happens. So let's put aqua on the outside here. Okay, and then we say convert palette. Okay, one thing to notice that white was currently set to the background color, but that does not change your background color up here. If you want to then set that to that, go ahead and set it. I want for maximum flexibility, I don't want to automatically be changing things. I could have done that. I could have said, well, you substituted for the background this thing, and now I'll change the background color. But I want those things to all be separated. Now, one thing that you should be aware of is that you can undo this. Let's change that back to white. You can undo this color change and you can redo it. So when you go into substitute colors, those colors that you change are undoable. You can undo and redo whatever you did. If you then get out here and look at it and go like, I don't like that, then you can undo it. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is this color dropper. This is most useful in a very complicated picture, maybe something that you've digitized, and it's got a lot of colors in it, and you've got 40 colors on the screen, and you don't know which one is which, and such, but maybe you want to fill something in an area, you want to set the foreground to this color that you see over here, and then fill that area with that color. And you don't want to have to look up what that color is, so you just want to be able to click on it and set this foreground color to that color. So if I click on this, okay, now I can pick a color, and I picked pink here, and it says you want to use this to set the foreground or the background color, and I'm just going to say foreground. Okay, so now pink is my foreground color. Okay, and then if I wanted to draw with that color, then I can just go down and draw something with that. Okay, one more thing to show here. So now we're gonna try and do a conversion of these colors to another palette. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna select. So it's sitting there, and my project is currently using the Summer Colors palette. It could be using a yarn palette or something else. In another video, if you look at the video on customizing the name rug, the children's name rug, I show in there how that got to convert from the Hirschner's pre-cut yarn to the Mary Maxim pre-cut yarn. So that conversion process is also shown in that video. But I'm just going to go from summer colors to winter colors. Okay, so there's my winter colors. I'm just going to say use palette. Okay, and now before I was just clearing the whole project with this. I clicked open new project, and what that does is just clears out the whole project. Okay, and makes kind of like a new project. But I'm going to now say I want to keep what I've got, my drawing that I've got, my beautiful Easter egg back there, and then I want to just convert that to the new palette. Okay, now there are three things that can happen here to a color. One, the color might be found exactly in the other palette. It doesn't happen very often with yarns and things like that, but some of the general palettes like these will have some of the same colors in them. So white was found. When it says it's found, that means that white was found in the new palette. We're going from summer colors to winter colors. So white from the summer colors was found to exist in the winter colors. So that's found in the winter colors. Okay, so we don't have to do anything about that. That one's good. We don't have to change that at all. Now these other two colors, the pink and the blue, are not found. So that means that these are colors that are currently in the summer palette, but they're not in the winter palette, the one that we're moving to. So they're not found in that palette. Now you have two choices in that case. You can substitute a color from the winter palette if you want to just do that. But if you really like this color and you want to copy it over to the winter palette, from the summer palette, you can click Add to Palette. So for the pink, let's do a substitution. Say we pick that plum color there. And now for this blue, let's say we want to keep that. We really like our blue. So let's say Add to Palette. Okay, so those are two different things. So one color we did a substitution, one color we added it to the palette. Now let's see what that does. So now let's convert the palette. Now, this is a little bit of a warning here because the substitute colors, which looks very much like this, is undoable. But when you convert from one palette to another, that's not something you can use the undo button on. So it's just saying it's going to convert this to that palette, and that's not undoable. Do you want to continue? So we just say yes, okay. And now we have winter colors up here, right? Plus, we've got this blue, okay? Now, let's go look at the winter palette to see what it did to that. Okay, so here's my winter palette. So what I did was I substituted this plum, which was already in the winter palette, and that was already used. That was used for the pink. And then this custom color that we had that was part of the summer colors, it's this color here, sky blue, is now a copy of it is sitting over in the winter colors palette. Okay, so this is just as if you had, copied the color exactly into this other palette and you created a custom color. So basically what it does is it adds a custom color to that palette, just as if you had done the add yourself. That's the same kind of thing, except it's exactly the same color that was in this palette. Okay. Now, one last thing, I'm going to show you some advanced stuff where we're going to actually copy another color. Let's say, here's winter colors, okay, and it's got kind of this gold color here, and the summer colors have got a bright apricot, which is a little darker, and maybe I'd like to have that exact color in this other palette. How do I do that? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first go to Summer Colors where I have the color that I want to copy. I go into Edit Palette, okay, and let's pick this color, okay. So that's the bright apricot, right? Now, in order to get, what I want to do is I want to get this advanced button so that it can be accessed. And it's only accessible when you're setting colors. So I pick the bright apricot first, then I pick New, like we did before when we were adding a color, which keeps the color here. I can go down to the Advanced tab. And what I want, the easiest thing to copy right here is this hex code. This is called a hex code for a color. You can, and if you see colors out on the internet, they'll often give you a hex code for that. And you can, actually create colors in here by putting that value in here. Now I'm on a Windows machine. I'm going to do Control-C to copy that. And then I'm going to cancel any changes in here because I'm not changing this palette. I'm just trying to get that code there. So I can take it over here to the winter colors. And I'm going to say edit that palette. I make sure my new button is selected. I go to the Advanced tab. I select this text in here and I'm doing a Control V on a Windows machine to paste that color in. Then I put the name in, bright apricot, and then I say add. Okay, now I have exactly the same color that was in the other palette in this palette. So this is a way to do that. That's an advanced way to do it, copying the hex code. You can also enter your own colors in. You can put hex codes in here. You can play with these little up and down arrows and make colors in this way too. Changing these colors around will move these sliders and things around on here, and you can come up with colors that way. It's an advanced way of thinking about your colors. This is RGB, which is red, green, and blue values, and this is hue, saturation, and brightness down here. HSB is another way of defining colors. Okay, then we click on the hide when we want to hide that. Then we can say save palette, use palette, okay. And when we go, whoops, over here, now we've got our bright apricot, and we can pick that up, and now we've got it in our winter palette, and maybe we'll just paste that in there, okay. So that should be all of the basic things about how to work with colors, including even, being able to put a hex code in to copy colors from one palette to another. Just remember that the palettes are are loose. You define your project to be what you want it to be, and then you can pick any palette. And think of a palette as just a list of colors. And you can use any palette, hide the colors, keep what you want, whatever you want to do. Oh, and one other thing is when you get to, if you go like to create from image, and once you have, I don't have an image, I guess, to put in here. We'll put something in here. Okay. So once you go in here and you pick this, if you go and pick this one that we restricted, so we restricted the anchor stranded cotton to just white, light blue, and dark blue, then another thing that you can do, a more advanced way that you can select your colors when you're doing digitization, is you can restrict your palette to just the colors that you would like it to use during the digitization process, and it will use just those colors. So that's what that's doing over here. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Please click the subscribe button. And if you and I hope that you enjoyed watching. I hope it's useful to you. Leave me a comment if you have a question or anything. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.